Hello and welcome to The Hustle. I am your host, Evan Cormier, and it's Christmas morning. March Madness is heating up. MLB opening day right around the corner. We're going to talk NFL free agency and NHL postseason. All that and more coming up on The Hustle. Welcome inside the studio. Mia Sansanelli to my right, Ryan DeFranzo to my left, but we have no time for introductions. The Sweet 16 is upon us. All 4 1 seeds are still alive. Who's stopping UConn from repeating?
I don't think anyone is stopping UConn from repeating. They are the best team in the country. It will ultimately come down to if they play like the best team in the country on any given day. Dan Hurley, deservingly so, Big East Coach of the Year. With their starters, they have 4 all Big East selections. Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Donovan Clingan, and Stephon Castle. I honestly don't see anyone stopping them.
I'm right there with you, Mia. I think no one is beating UConn, and like you said, they have that starting 5, Clingan being the focus point there, and it's UConn versus the field in this one. I don't think anyone is touching UConn here.
Well, just because all 1 seeds are still alive, that doesn't mean that there wasn't any big upsets. What was the most shocking to you, Ryan?
The favorite one for me has got to be 14 seed Oakland over Kentucky. Jack Oakey, star of round 1, just lighting it up from 3. Hit 10 threes in a tournament game. 5th player to do that. Last one to do it was Carson Edwards in 2019 for Purdue.
Another big first-round upset I had was Yale over Auburn. Yale, in the first place, won with a buzzer-beater layup, of all things, against Brown in the Ivy League Championship, just sneaking in to the NCAA Championship. It's just not the Connecticut team people expected to make a statement in this tournament, especially going up against Auburn, who was 13-5 in that monster SEC conference.
You mentioned it, Yale, one of those bubble teams. There were a lot of teams that just didn't quite make the 68-team cut. There's been a lot of talks of expansion. Who do you think was the biggest snub?
I believe several Big East teams could have made a case for the NCAA tournament. There's just not that much representation from that conference this year. Seton Hall, I think, is one of those teams that definitely could have made it in. They look for strength of schedule with this committee, and I think they had that. They beat UConn, one of the only 3 teams to beat UConn in the regular season. They finished 4th in the Big East, went to triple OT with Creighton, who's also still in the tournament, so I think Seton Hall is the one for me.
For me, I'm looking at the Indiana State Sycamores. They were in the NIT tournament with Creighton. They had a big first round, and they have a big forward in Robbie Avila, nicknamed College Jokic, Milk Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Larry Bird. And he can pass, shoot free throws, and get rebounds. And that's really important when you have 4 guys on the court that can score anywhere at any time.
I love it. Well, Mia, you mentioned the Big East. How about the ACC? The ACC champion, North Carolina State University. They got the 11 seed. They've won 7 in a row. Can they do it one more time?
I think this is where the NC State Wolfpack comes to an end. As good as Kevin Keats and they have played through the 5 games in 5 days to get into the tournament, I think these Golden Eagles send the Wolfpack packing, and you haven't heard much about these Golden Eagles, but this is where they're going to make some noise.
I have to disagree. Upset in the first round over Texas Tech, a great game against Oakland. DJ Burns Jr. is just a powerhouse. 16 points in the first game, 24 points in that overtime game, the most of all the players on the team that night. Marquette is a great team. They're hard to beat, but I say the Wolfpack will.
Yeah, well, NC State is the lowest seed remaining, but maybe not the biggest shock to still see in the tournament. Who is, Mia?
The biggest surprise for me in the Sweet 16 is Clemson. People predicted a first-round exit and upset from New Mexico. Baylor was ranked higher than them as well. They aren't always well known for their basketball at Clemson, but we'll see how they do against Arizona.
For me, I'm looking at Duke. Even though they are a 4 seed, they don't have Coach K anymore. They're missing some big injuries. They don't have Foster for this entire tournament. But when you have a big like Kyle Filipowski and a big like Jeremy Roach, it's easier for them to go up big and stay up big. So I think Duke is making the run in this one.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. I had New Mexico State in my Final Four. Clearly that did not pan out. Speaking of Final Four, only 4 will be remaining after this weekend. Who's going to be punching their ticket to Arizona?
First off, I'm taking UConn. Pencil in. Don't think twice about it. For next, I'm going UNC over Arizona because of the duo of Baycott and R.J. Davis. And then I'm looking at Marquette in the South over Houston because they're a quiet team. They have some underrated players. And then finally, I'm going with Purdue. They've hurt us in the past, but they look strong this year. And I really want to see Zach Edey versus Klingen in the finals.
I agree with the UConn part, but I think the rest of mine's a little bit different. I have Iowa State. They beat Houston so convincingly in their conference championship. I have Gonzaga, little biased. I've always been a fan of their play. And they beat Kansas convincingly as well. And I have Houston. I think the number 1 seeds are just not going away, unfortunately.
For me, I think it's going to have to be UConn. That's my pick. Only one team can cut down the nets. Who are we going with?
I mean, you said it. I'm locking in with UConn. I just have to. They're winning it all. They've been blowing out their opponents in the first 2 rounds. 92-51 versus Stetson, 75-59 versus Northwestern. They've lost 1 game since 2024 started. So I just think there's no other heavy contender.
I'm rolling with UConn as well over Purdue just because of the matchups. I think UConn has an edge on the outside, but Purdue is going to get the paint. But it's going to be one of the best finals we've seen in a while.
Yeah, well, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about some real basketball. The women's basketball bracket is really heating up. South Carolina has not lost this season. Is that going to change?
I don't think so. South Carolina is the most dominant, complete team in all of women's college basketball. There are individual elite players on several teams, but South Carolina is the best overall squad, led by the great Dawn Staley. It'll prove that they don't need players like Aaliyah Boston to continue dominating in the tournament. You know, they missed the finals last year, but that's not going to happen this time.
I also think it's going to be South Carolina's tournament to lose, putting a target on their back. But if I had to pick a team that is taking them down, it's going to be Iowa and Caitlin Clark or the USC Trojans with Juju Watkins. Because if you want to beat Carolina, you have to break down their defense. And that's exactly what Clark and Watkins do. So those are my teams to do it.
We haven't seen a run quite like this since those legendary UConn days with Breanna Stewart. But how about those Lady Blue Devils? They're the lowest seed remaining. They just knocked off the 2 seed in Ohio State Buckeyes. What happened with the Big O?
Ohio State for sure had a lot of people's brackets busted, and all it takes is one bad stretch of basketball for your season to end, and that's what we saw to the Buckeyes. They had a 16-point lead, and they were ahead for most of the game, but if you saw the second half, you just knew it was not their game anymore, and they couldn't stop Reagan Richardson and the Blue Devils.
Hey, I mean, Duke is a strong team, and now they have to go face the UConn Huskies in Portland, Oregon. So that's not a favorable pick as well. You know, they were the number 1 seed after the regular season in the Big Ten, but OSU was also blown out by Maryland in their own conference tournament, so I don't think it's that big of a surprise.
Well, the 3 seed Tigers are playing with a chip on their shoulder, going for the repeat. All eyes are on them. Do you think that they're going to be able to block out this noise?
Unfortunately, I think LSU has some bigger problems than just on the court. And speaking of that, they held on after their first round opponent, Rice, kind of gave them a run for their money. They had a good battle with MTSU as well. But, you know, Kim Mulkey has been running into some issues. If you've seen her press conferences recently, there's apparently this story bubbling about her that might be published. And if you know Kim Mulkey, she speaks her mind all the time, does not give a second thought. But she had a written statement for this press conference, which might prove some concerns and validity to that story.
Not only is it Kim Mulkey making some news, buzz in the media, but Angel Reese, last year we saw her do the "can't see me" to Caitlin Clark. Now she does a wave to another Middle Tennessee player, and it causes some turmoil there.
All right, well, before we go to break, only one can cut down the nets in Cleveland. Who's it going to be, Ryan?
I'm going with South Carolina. Like, they have the best defense, they have some of the best guards in the country, and I don't think anyone is stopping them there.
I have to follow suit. If it's not South Carolina, I would be shocked. But if it's not them, I could see Notre Dame maybe giving them a run for their money. Maybe Iowa. You know, they have those clutch players. Hannah Hidalgo, probably freshman of the year for Notre Dame, coming in and just dominating in this tournament as well. Caitlin Clark, a seasoned vet, but she's doing Caitlin Clark things.
So you guys don't have any love for UConn?
Not this year. Only on the men's side, Evan. Sorry about that one, but we're rolling with the men this year.
I'd have to
Love
agree.
it. Love it. Well, don't go anywhere, Mia. You're going to stay right here. Ryan, we're going to have to say goodbye to you, but you're going to be back later as we're going to talk some NBA. We've got NHL coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about the MLB opening day as well. Don't touch that dial. This is The Hustle.
The Hustle, brought to you by the Sitting Duck Tavern.
Welcome back. Thank you for sticking around. Evan Cormier alongside Mia Sansanelli and August Guglielmo. And we've got a busy block coming up. We're going to start in the NBA. There's a little bit of trouble in paradise. The wheels are falling off in the Bay. Is it time to pack it up for Golden State?
So they're currently 38 and 34, 10th place. And I think Mr. Draymond Green has been a bit problematic for the Warriors and will ultimately hinder their success. You know, he's causing emotions to fly on the team. They're towards the bottom this year, so they can't really afford for those personnel issues to happen. I really don't think they're going to go as far as they might have in other years.
Yeah, well, I may have to disagree with you, Mia. I think the Warriors are still dominant, right? That 1-2 combo of Curry and Clay is just still phenomenal in the league. They just got to stay healthy, right? I agree with you, Mia, where you say Draymond is a problem. He's got to calm it down with his getting ejected. Just the other night he got ejected. Overall, Steve Kerr is a Hall of Fame coach. He needs to wrap these guys up together, band them together, and really get them to kick off the end of the season.
So Augie's not giving up on them yet, but let's chill it out a little bit. The NHL is approaching the postseason. Do we think a team from the Central can make a run at Lord Stanley?
I believe we could possibly see that. The Avalanche currently sit at second place. They have the most recent experience in the playoffs, winning last year. Very familiar territory for them. But the Predators haven't lost a game in 10 games now. And the Avalanche, to go with win streaks, they had 9 in a row just before this past game. So I think it's very possible, especially with the Dallas Stars also sitting in first place.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Mia. The Predators are on a 5-game win streak. They are just hot right now. Their goalie, Soros, he is just immaculate and so consistent behind the net. I really am pulling for the Predators on this one.
A lot of time the Stanley Cup playoffs come down to having a hot goaltender, but there's still a few big names floating around in America's favorite league. Where's the next NFL player to make a splash?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about wide receivers here, guys. My first guy is Hunter Renfrow. I loved his game in Clemson back in college. He was great. His last contract with the Raiders was $32 million. 2 years, $32 million. Could we possibly see Derek Carr and Hunter Renfrow reunite in New Orleans? I'd love to see that. And the next guy I'm thinking of is a returning star, Odell Beckham Jr. We all know what he's capable of. We know what that catch was in New York. That catch was just amazing. He is just a quality guy who I want to see back on a decent team.
Yeah, we definitely miss him in New York. I can speak for all the Giants fans. He has a Super Bowl ring. He's an elite athlete who worked to come back from that ACL injury. He didn't come back just to phone it in early. He's still young. His health might be a concern, but I think there are plenty of teams that still need receivers. And with the Ravens, he was able to go very far to the AFC Championship game. So I think also maybe something you could look at is his former teammate, J.K. Dobbins. He doesn't get as much production as he used to in that running back role, but he is a good QB, a good running back for the quarterback to have on their side. So we'll see where he goes as well.
On a more grim note, Shohei Ohtani, the MLB's biggest star, is up to his neck in gambling allegations. What do you make of this scandal?
Well, I think we don't have enough evidence to really put our fingers on what happened, right? We either have a backstabbing translator or we have a degenerate gambler, Shohei Ohtani here. In either way, I really don't like the answer, right? We know there's facts that Shohei Ohtani sent wire transfers to his translator. We know that is facts. $1 million here, $2 million here. But Shohei Ohtani denies any sort of betting allegations, any sort of debt paying off allegations. I really want to see more evidence before I make my final verdict on what happened.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think anything has been set in stone yet. But ultimately, the fact is it's not a good look for this organization at all, especially with their really new signing to bring in all of this drama and this investigation that now has to surround their team and their franchise, especially with opening day today.
Worth noting, just recently Ohtani has gotten the authorities involved, but the Dodgers are still the betting favorite to take home the World Series. Who's your favorite, Mia?
Who is my favorite? I'd have to go with the Yankees. I mean, New York born and raised. They missed the postseason last year for the first time since 2016. That just shows you how dominant they have been in previous years. Aaron Judge expected to be back. Hopefully he increases what he's able to do throughout the season. Still, nursing some of those injuries. Soto, a huge off-season signing. They have 27 World Series people, so I think to say they're not a contender would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm going to maybe go with Evan on this one. I think it's the Dodgers. Even with this Ohtani drama, I really don't think it matters much when we're talking about to the game. Mookie Betts, he's one of my favorite players ever. I love Mookie Betts. I cannot say enough good about Mookie Betts. Between, like I'm saying, the Dodgers superstar, them having the 8th highest payroll in baseball, I think they're ready to recreate that 2020 World Series season.
Mia, I hate to put you on the spot. Give me a sleeper team, just one sleeper team.
Oh my gosh. Should I pick the other New York team? Should I do it?
The Mets?
I might have to pick them. I might have to. I mean, it's way too early to make any of these ridiculous predictions. So you could say any of these teams, and you can make a case for any of them. So yeah, that'll be my pick.
I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. You cannot make a case for the Boston Red Sox, one of the worst teams in baseball, the worst ownership. Augie, give us a name.
You're killing me, Evan. I did not want to hear that. You know, our pitching is not the greatest. Our catching, not the greatest. We're really lacking on that side of the field. I don't think we got it, as you said, Evan.
I agree. I'm just going to throw the Phillies out there. But coming up right after the break, thank you very much for joining us, Mia and Augie. We're going to have some of the hottest tweets on the internet, as well as a little bit of NFL draft drama. Stay with us on The Hustle.
Welcome back to The Hustle, your home for sports on the go. I'm Ryan DeFranzo. Joining me in the studio now is analyst Brendan Capozzi, and we're going to talk a lot of March Madness tweets, and we're kicking it off with the Big East, SEC, and Sweet 16. So, tipping it off, let's start with the SEC. They're 1-5 this year in tournament, and teams like Kentucky, Auburn, South Carolina all losing. But even with that, they're 5-6 combined throughout this tournament, with teams like Tennessee and Alabama being the only two left dancing and making a run to the Final Four. It's been the offense for Alabama and the defense for Tennessee that have them on this run.
Yeah, the SEC has been very surprising in this NCAA tournament. You know, a massive congratulations to Alabama and Tennessee to make it all the way to Sweet 16. But, you know, I want to talk about Kentucky. You know, John Calipari, he's been struggling the last couple of years in the NCAA tournament, losing to a 14-seed Oakland and a guy named Jack Golke, who no one has ever heard of until this NCAA tournament. He went absolutely off against the Kentucky Wildcats, you know, obviously losing 2 years ago to St. Peter's, who made an Elite Eight run. John Calipari is coming back to Kentucky next year, but, you know, I am very disappointed in the Wildcats. You produce in the regular season, but they cannot come up big in March. That's my big storyline coming out.
So we see those teams, SEC 1-5. We got to talk about the ACC. They're 6-1. Teams like UNC, Duke, Clemson, all in the Sweet 16. Also looking to make some Final Four runs. Now moving on, we go to the Sweet 16. This is what March is supposed to look like. We just see a lot of talent this year. It's very top heavy, and we have all the 1 seeds and 2 seeds, and it should make you happy because we have rest of the tournament to go. These are going to be down to the wire games. It is sad we don't see big upsets or Cinderella runs this year, but you have to give credit to all these teams for the work they put in and the results they produced. Now all you have to do is sit back and watch the madness unfold.
You see something with these 16 teams right here? There's only one double digit, and that is number 11 NC State. A big congratulations to DJ Burns and the Wolfpack for making it all the way to the Sweet 16. They had a very tough conference in the ACC you just mentioned. Powerhouses like UNC and Duke, who are national title favorites. NC State did everything that they can, and they absolutely ran the table in the ACC tournament. They've had big wins, and then taking the win against number 14 Oakland to advance to the Sweet 16. I'm very proud of the way that DJ Burns and the Wolfpack have handled everything so far, and they are my Cinderella team so far this year. And, you know, we talked about the ACC. It's time to talk about the Big East, the most dominating conference in college basketball. They have absolutely dominated over the past couple of runs in the NCAA tournament, capping it off by UConn winning the national championship. But they've also just dominated in general. They are 17-4 in the last 2 NCAA tournaments. The Big 12 is 15-12. The SEC is 13-13. And the Big 10 is 11-11. And I bring this issue up because, you know, there was a big discrepancy on whether how many teams from the Big East should have made the NCAA tournament. You know, we talk about the Mountain West that had 6 teams representing them this year. And we look at the Big East that only had Marquette, Creighton, and UConn make the tournament, and all 3 of those teams have made it to the Sweet 16. We look at someone like Rick Pitino in St. John's, and we look at Seton Hall, who had a big upset against UConn earlier in the year, be the first 4 out. A big discrepancy to whether, you know, the Big East was underrepresented in the NCAA tournament, Ryan.
You mentioned some great teams there, Brendan, but a couple other teams not making the tournament this year that made it last year from the Big East: Xavier, Providence, Creighton, obviously in it this year, but they weren't in it last year, as we noticed. And they all got their names in the ring. We also got to look at the Marquette Golden Eagles, 2 seed this year, 2 seed last year. They lost to 7 seed Michigan State this year. This year, they get NC State 11 seed. And then the Gonzaga Bulldogs get number 5 seed.
Yeah, I got jumped a little gun because I was a little too excited, but let's talk about the NFL. In Colorado, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter-Dion basically kind of said they controlled their own fate in the 2025 draft. He kind of determined that Travis and Shedeur were going to come back. You know, he said that this is going to be an Eli Manning situation, that they're going to control their destiny. He does not want them playing in any cold weather. This is just how, you know, things are going these days, but I want to get your reaction to what you think about this.
Yeah, this is the start of something new we're going to be seeing, and I'm not saying I'm a fan of it, but I'm saying don't be surprised if this is the new norm. We already see it this year with Caleb Williams, possibly the #1 overall pick. He said he wants to go to the Bears. Could be, could not be. It's up to the Bears. It's not up to Caleb Williams. But Shedeur Sanders could be, obviously, decide where he wants to go. I'm telling you, this is going to be the new norm for college football.
Yeah, almost see where those top Buffaloes go in the draft. Coming up, we're going to talk about the top hustle plays next on The Hustle.
The Hustle is brought to you by Goodfellas Pizzeria, established in 1999.
Welcome back. Evan Cormier alongside Fred Shin. If you made it this far, we sincerely thank you. Your reward, it's going to be the Hustle Plays. Jack Golke becomes the newest member of March Royalty. Why don't you tell us how it happened, Fred?
Wow, Jack Golke, he had an insane game against Kentucky. It seems like he almost killed them single-handedly. He knocked them out by himself, hitting an absurd 10 three-pointers. It didn't matter if he was falling down, if he was getting fouled. He was on fire, and he did it what seemed to be all by himself. Oakland upsets Kentucky, which is the most important part. They got the win. One of the best upsets in March Madness history.
Love it. Well, from upset to upset, Yale pulled off a big victory over Auburn. Talk us through it.
Right. Yale pulled off a crazy upset against Auburn. Started off with a great 3 there by Yale. And then the theme at the end of this game seemed to be missed free throws. Missed free throw there by Yale, but now Auburn pushes it down with a great and one play right here. The game is a little bit close, but here we go again with another missed free throw. Auburn trying to get the possession there, but they never really turned into much. It turned into a jump ball, which led to more free throws for Auburn, and we have another miss here, and they couldn't really get the shot they wanted. A block there, and then you have a really bad chuck right there by Auburn. It wasn't the shot they wanted. It wasn't the end they wanted, but Yale stayed strong, and they got the upset.
Well, thank you for the analysis. For Mia Sansanelli, Fred Shin, Ryan DeFranzo, Brendan Capozzi, Augie Guillermo, I've been Evan Cormier on The Hustle. Thank you for tuning in.